What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Fantasy Basketball This Week, presented by District of Buckets. If you won your game last week, go ahead and comment down below, GG, easy dubs. If you lost your game last week, well, we all know why you're here. We're going to cover a lot of stuff today. We're going to cover waiver wire pickups. We're going to cover the back-to-backs and the teams you need to be looking out for. We're going to cover buy low, sell high. We're going to get into all of that right after we roll this tape. But before we do that, make sure you're liking, commenting, and subscribing. You guys have helped us grow so much, and we really appreciate it. So let's get into it. What's going on, everybody? Once again, welcome back to Fantasy Basketball This Week, presented by District of Buckets. I am Tyler Castle, along with my good friend Carl Baltimore, and together we are your lead fantasy basketball analyst at District of Buckets. There's been a lot going on in the NBA this week, specifically injuries. Some big name injuries have come up. LeBron, KD's out again. Steph Curry with the tailbone contusion. A lot of stuff you guys need to be looking out for. But you can get all of that information right here, consolidated on the best fantasy basketball show on the planet. Isn't that right, Carl?
Yes, it is.
Let's start off with waiver wires. So we all know our strategy for waiver wire pickups is maximizing your acquisitions. So that means capitalizing on back-to-backs throughout the week. And for the first time since I've covered back-to-backs, we have a day without back-to-backs, which is Monday, Tuesday. We're starting the week out without a back-to-back. Tuesday, Wednesday, we have Brooklyn, Denver, Orlando, and Phoenix. Those are all back-to-backs. Wednesday, Thursday, we got the Clippers, Sacramento Kings, and the San Antonio Spurs. Thursday, Friday, Golden State Warriors, Lakers, Heat, and Portland. Friday, Saturday, we got Boston. We got a bunch on Friday, Saturday. We got Boston, Cleveland, Dallas, Detroit, Houston, Memphis, Milwaukee, Minnesota, and Utah. And then once again, Saturday, Sunday, no back-to-back. So just things you should be aware of, but we're going to go into what players you should be looking for on those back-to-backs, and including the days that don't have back-to-backs. So Monday, Tuesday, your Monday acquisition is looking a little bit like you're going to pick up whoever is having just a good schedule, a lot of opportunity, whatever it might be. Somebody like Jordan Poole, who has been starting in place of Steph Curry during his absence. Or Dwight Howard, who's playing against Golden State, covering for Joel Embiid in his absence. There's also guys that have been shining as of recently, like Will Barton. Will Barton's a guy you could be looking out for. Kyle Kuzma and Taylor Horton-Tucker are guys that you could look for as Monday pickups. They'll both be taking on a heavier load as LeBron has come out with a high ankle sprain. So LeBron owners like me, we're praying for a quick return. We need him for the playoffs coming up. But these are some of the guys that you can pick up in the injured people's places that could help you win your game this week. All right, and then moving into Tuesday, Wednesday back-to-backs, we're looking at teams Brooklyn, Denver, Orlando, and Phoenix. And on Brooklyn, who we're looking at is people like DeAndre Jordan or Nicholas Claxton, both getting around 20 minutes a game, 20-plus minutes a game. Claxton is a little bit more efficient when it comes to that area, but DeAndre Jordan is always a solid option to rely upon. And then we're looking at teams like Denver. We got Will Barton, who's been playing really well recently. Will Barton, over his last 7, is averaging 33 fantasy points per game, only owned in 45.7% of ESPN leagues, which is far too little. And then there's guys like Michael Porter Jr., who's averaging 5 more fantasy points per game and is owning 97. So don't always be a name chaser. You're going after the buckets. You're going after the fantasy points. Moving on into the Wednesday, Thursday back-to-backs. We got the Los Angeles Clippers, the Kings, and the San Antonio Spurs. And we always talk about the San Antonio Spurs when it comes to waiver wire pickups. They got so many guys that could help out your team. And one of those guys being Kelden Johnson. Kelden Johnson just came off of quite the game, 23 points, 21 boards, just kind of an insane stat line for Kelden. And then there's always Jakob Poeltl. Jakob Poeltl, the man, the myth, the legend. Over the last 7 days is averaging 31.6 fantasy points per game. And then if he isn't owned yet in your league, Derek White. Derek White is a guy that can help you out in the long run. He may not be producing as much as he was expected to, coming off of his injury, coming off of COVID. But once he gets back into the swing of things, you can expect him to take a turn for the better. Thursday, Friday, back-to-backs. We got Golden State Warriors, Lakers, Miami, and Portland. And you know we're looking at the Lakers because LeBron is out. So who's taken over his minutes and who's taken over his production? We're looking at guys like Taylor Horton-Tucker. Taylor Horton-Tucker over the last 7 days is averaging 26.8 points, fantasy points. And then we're looking at guys like Kyle Kuzma. Kyle Kuzma could have been a waiver wire pickup even before LeBron had exited with an injury. He's playing about 30 minutes a game right now, and you can expect that to be even higher once we see the next couple of games. Lakers without AD, Lakers without LeBron James. Friday, Saturday, back-to-backs. We got a ton of people. We got a ton of teams playing back-to-backs. Boston, Cleveland, Dallas, Detroit, Houston, Memphis, Milwaukee, Minnesota, Utah. Houston has a lot of opportunity just because they're playing a lot of their young guys right now. Victor Oladipo and John Wall tend to miss quite a few games throughout the season. And so we're looking at guys like Jayshawn Tate. Also, while we're talking about Houston, welcome back, Christian Wood. Christian Wood owners rejoice. Okay, now that we're done rejoicing, we're looking at Jayshawn Tate. Jayshawn Tate over the last 7 days, 34.8 fantasy points per game. Kevin Porter Jr., now owned in 67% of leagues, but averaging 27.5 over the last 7. He had that one game where he had -3. He had quadricep issues. We'll look past it. We still love you, Kevin Porter Jr. And then there's also Kenyon Martin Jr. Not as high on him as I am Kevin Porter Jr. and Jayshawn Tate, but he has proven to be kind of a motivational guy on the defensive end, just really bringing energy to the team. But aside from Houston, there's more people we could be looking at. We could be looking at Milwaukee's Bobby Portis. He's not playing a lot of games right now, and Carl's going to talk about him later. But Bobby Portis is getting upwards of 16 to 20 minutes a game right now. But then there's also guys like Pat Connaughton and Brook Lopez and Dante DiVincenzo. Those guys are all viable options on the Milwaukee Bucks, and they will play that Friday, Saturday back-to-back. But if we're going to talk about guys you must have on your team, Robert Williams. God, I don't know how many times I have to say it. He's still only owned in 56.8% of leagues, and you guys are insane if you aren't picking him up and he's available in your league. If you are in a 10-team league or more, Robert Williams is a must roster. And I'm not going back on that statement. There's nothing.
You shouldn't go back on that. He's, incredibly efficient. He's a shot blocker, rebounder,
especially in category leagues. Blocks, insane. Blocks are insane. Field goal percentage, insane.
Yeah.
So he's definitely a guy you need to have on your team. And I'm going to bring it up every week until he's owned and until I see that roster number say 100.0.
Yeah.
There's like 5 guys in fantasy basketball that have that status, and Robert Williams needs to be the 6th. All right? Come on, guys. Pick it up. Also, Minnesota, Friday, Saturday, back-to-back. We got Ricky Rubio. Also could be a sell-high candidate, depending on how you look at it. But over the last 7 days, 40.8 fantasy points per game. Just insane. Also, shout out Anthony Edwards, really coming into his own. But yeah, those are who we like for our back-to-backs. And then we're talking Saturday, Sunday. There's no back-to-backs on Saturday, Sunday. So who shall you pick up on that Saturday and Sunday? Well, we're looking at people like Danilo Gallinari, who has had a pretty miserable start to the season and is kind of getting better. Over the last 7 days, he's had 44 fantasy points, 13 fantasy points, and 54 fantasy points against Houston. Just really coming into his own out there. And then, like I've said before, Will Barton. Will Barton is a guy that could have been owned outside of these back-to-back waiver wire pickups. He's a guy that has had in the last 5 games 36 fantasy points, 23, 30, 46, and 35, playing more than 33 minutes a game in those last 5 games. So a guy that you should be looking at regardless of if he has a back-to-back or not. And then, of course, Kyle Kuzma and Taylor Horton-Tucker playing against Orlando. Aaron Gordon, if he's not picked up in your league. Aaron Gordon is owned in 78.5% of leagues, but a lot of people dropped him just because of his injury. So if he's available in your league, that's another guy that you can be looking out for. Sunday, who are we picking up? Robert Williams against New Orleans. Pick him up. Jordan Poole, once again, against Golden State, or as Golden State starter without Steph Curry, playing against Chicago. Moses Brown has kind of been having some good games recently. He had that 155-point game against Chicago, and ever since then, he's gotten 13 and 26, playing about 24 minutes a game. You could see the Thunder start to play their younger guys a little bit more, try and working them into the lineup, see what they can do. Again, we got Kevin Porter Jr., Kenyon Martin Jr. on Sunday. DeLon Wright, if you're looking for a Detroit guy. Larry Nance Jr. is back, and he's playing fine. He's playing fine. Larry Nance Jr. is a guy that you can be looking at. Rui Hachimura. Rui Hachimura has been playing very, very well, aside from his last game against Utah, where he had 39 minutes. He's playing a ton of minutes, 30s. In his last 4 games, 39 minutes, 38 minutes, 37, 38, playing an insane amount of minutes, and most of the time capitalizing on those minutes. So those are all my picks that you should be looking at throughout the week. Like I said, we're trying to maximize our acquisitions here and trying to get the most fantasy points total, not the most average fantasy points. So just remember that when you're going in, a guy playing 2 games is much more likely to be more valuable to your team than a guy just playing that single game. Carl, let's talk about your waiver wire pickups regardless of schedule.
Okay, so regardless of schedule, waiver wire pickups, I'm looking right now at just potentially Bobby Portis. He's had a little bit of issues in the last couple games, I understand, but it's just like looking at how he's been dropped. I think it's like last week it was like 10.1% from what his ownership already was, and I think there's a chance to maybe grab him if that number keeps dipping at a pretty solid value, because I think his role off the bench is still really important to that team, and he's going to play like he said earlier, like his 16-ish minutes per game, and like having that role in a good team is going to pay off. And then also, I think as we get down the stretch of the season, you're going to see the Bucks, rotation wise, give a lot of the rotation guys a little bit more minutes because of the way that the season's going. And, as we get closer to playoffs, it's like, I want to start resting players and stuff like that. Don't know for sure, but it's a good guy you could get for almost nothing, only owned in like 37% of leagues right now. Let's see, let me check the percentage now. Yeah, owned in laptop's being slow. But yeah, Bobby Portis. Let's see that. Pulling it up. And my computer's taking forever. But just kind of like just the fact that he's, not really highly owned. People are kind of on the downswing for his value right now. I think you could pick him up at a pretty good price, basically, just for people just kind of giving up on him, it looks like right now. And yeah, so that's what I have for Bobby Portis. Also, waiver wire, I was looking at THT, as we mentioned earlier. THT, just because if any of this LeBron stuff is long lasting, a lot of people, there are going to be a bunch of beneficiaries to like just the amount of production that has to get filled for that team. And I think THT is a guy who's slowly seen them working him in, is playing more significant minutes, which means I feel like during this stretch we'll hear more on LeBron, and they're still trying to figure out what they're doing with AD. Like, I think we're going to see like the Lakers have enough confidence to start giving him a little bit of an uptick in minutes. So I would definitely try to get him on waivers if you can still get him. The third guy that I have this week is Monte Morris for the Denver Nuggets. Mostly just because when he's healthy, he plays a very, very important role for that team. And like you see guys that we mentioned, kind of like MPJ, recently that benefited from his absence, and I think that he's going to kind of cut into a lot of that production for some of the non-Jokic, Murray nuggets on that team. So I think he's a good person to look at for waiver wire potentially this week.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's great insight. And after that stuff, we're going to move right into buy low, sell high. And there's a lot of guys we could talk about, but one guy I'm going to talk about that I mentioned earlier, your sell high candidate, Ricky Rubio. Ricky Rubio has been playing exceptionally well, so well. And I'm not saying that he's a bad player and he's going to tank the rest of the season, but is he going to maintain the production that he's having right now? In his last 5, 52 fantasy points, 22, 60, 29, and 33. As you can see, he's already being a little inconsistent with it, playing around 30 minutes a game. An injury to Deangelo Russell has forced the vet to take up more of the scoring mantle. He'll face the Thunder on Monday. When is Deangelo Russell coming back? I don't know. I'm just talking out of my ass on the fly. Deangelo Russell is coming back relatively soon. He's been cleared for on-court activities. He's been sidelined since February 8th, and he could rejoin the team for practice in the next coming week and then return the following week. So he could just be 2 to 3 weeks away, which is right around the time for the playoffs for our fantasy basketball to start. I believe they start in 4.5, maybe 5 weeks. So Ricky Rubio is a guy that I'm looking to sell high on. Am I saying Deangelo Russell is going to be putting up the same kind of production as Ricky Rubio was during his this hot streak? I don't know. Deangelo Russell he's been injured for quite some time, and we don't know what to expect out of him. But we're not here to talk about Deangelo Russell. We're talking about Ricky Rubio and why he's a sell high candidate. The Timberwolves are going to start playing their young guys. They're going to start trying to develop people, see how their roster is going to look in the next year and start playing what that starting 5 could look like. And Ricky Rubio might not be included in that equation. So definitely a guy I am looking to move. And then buy low, I'm talking John Morant. I think John Morant is not playing to the best of his abilities right now. In his last couple games, he's been struggling, hovering around 20 fantasy points. And he's going to improve. And that could just be a guess, like a gut feeling guess. But John Morant is a better player than what he has shown in the last week. And I can tell you, as a person that owns John Morant, it is very disheartening seeing him play this poorly, and not necessarily play poorly, but not put up any fantasy production. There will be an upswing because he will not continue to average 20 fantasy points per game for the rest of the year. And this is the time to start nagging the guy that has John Morant in your league and saying, hey man, what's up with this dude? You trying to move him? I don't know if he's got the production to get you through the playoffs. So definitely be looking out for John Morant. Carl, who are your buy low, sell high candidates?
All right, so I'm actually kind of sticking with my trend of staying with the Lakers and the Nuggets, just based off of just trends of the way I feel like the teams are going. Buy low, I've Dennis Schroeder, good old active Schroeder. Really like him just because I know for a fact that LeBron. So it's depending on LeBron's absence. So you're gonna want to monitor and see just how long he's gonna be out, because they mentioned that he was out indefinitely. They haven't said anything concrete, but it's a high ankle sprain. So high ankle sprains historically with athletes, you really don't know. It could be a couple weeks here, and it all depends on how LeBron heals from this sprain. And I'd say if it's any extended period of time and they want to keep him fresh for the playoffs, I think Dennis Schroeder is a good guy to try to go grab low before he starts to play a bunch without LeBron in the lineup. Those are because when LeBron's not there, what you really are missing is a ball handler in that lineup. And so, Schroeder is going to have to take on more responsibility. And just having more responsibility with the ball in your hand, you have the potential for, more passes that can lead to assists for him, more opportunities for him to shoot the ball. And Schroeder's a good enough player who can give you some good production that I think that he can really maximize LeBron being out. So that's why I have to buy low right there. Dennis Schroeder. Also keep your eye out for most of the Lakers in general, just because LeBron has so much production that it's got to go somewhere. It may not be the exact same, but it's going to spread. Like the rebounds are going to spread somewhere. The assists are going to spread somewhere. The points are going to spread somewhere if he's not playing. And so we're going to see how that shakes up, especially with the Lakers also being cautious with Anthony Davis. So there's so much opportunity on that fantasy-wise. So just keep a monitor on Los Angeles Lakers for any low value potential high reward fantasy players.
Not even to mention that they are still fighting for a playoff spot. They're 6th seed and they're not far out of the play-in game. So they have to play well if they want to make the playoffs. And it's just a matter of getting them to the playoffs so LeBron and AD can return and dominate as they once have. But yeah, you're right. Continue.
And then you have so for sell high, I actually have MPJ on my list this week. Mostly because he's done a lot of things to be in the limelight over the last couple of weeks. And this is kind of just for maybe if you want to, get someone in your league that's been a little bit on the hype. But he's still playing well. Love MPJ's game. Shout out Mizzou, alma mater.
Don't be right now, bro.
It's still a hard point because of college basketball leaving Oklahoma, so let's not really get too much into that. But MPJ is just someone who's going to fight with I think like when Monte Morris comes back in that lineup. We're going to see just his touches maybe go not away, but it's just he really MPJ really has to capitalize on quality of shots that he takes. That those cold nights are also just around the corner, but also we've seen the video of him hitting three and turning the corner and turning back to the bench and all that stuff. And so I think that maybe that there's a way that if you have him, you can kind of hype him up a little bit, spice up the deal if you're if you don't have a trade deadline that's passed or anything. I don't know however your league works, but MPJ is a guy that I would try to sell high based off of just the amount of hype that has been around his name in the past couple weeks.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. I'm not super high on MPJ, but that three where he turns around, that was nasty, man.
Nice. That's all I got.
Yeah, I think that's all I got too. But before everybody logs off, we got a question for you. This is something that got the fantasy basketball group chat pretty heated. We're not going to go into specifics, but we are going to ask, who would you rather have on your team heading into the playoffs? Would you rather have Ja Morant or CJ McCollum? That's going to be all for this week, fantasy basketball this week. Leave what you think down below. We really appreciate all you guys, all you new subscribers. You really helped out a ton. We love doing this stuff. We would love to talk to you guys in the comments. So leave a comment down below with your roster, whatever you want to talk about. Hit up our socials. Yeah, that's it, man. You got anything?
Just want to shout out my guy Jason Preston for Ohio pulling an upset over UVA. The only upset I put on my bracket that I was confident in actually happened. The kid's an amazing basketball player. If you guys get a chance to watch Ohio play before, if this is out at all, hopefully they're still in it. Watch him play. He's a dog.
Yeah. Oh, I also do have one more thing to add. We're looking for sponsors. So if you're looking to promote music, if you're looking to promote music, if you're looking to promote a brand, if you're looking to promote a YouTube channel, whatever it is, hit up our email. It's in the our About section on our YouTube channel. We're cheap. So hit us up. We're open.
Buy us.
We're open. We're open to anything. So just let us know. Let's grow the brand. All right, that's going to be it for Fantasy Basketball this week, presented by District of Buckets. Once again, I'm Tyler Castle with my boy Carl. That's all. Peace out.
Peace out.